Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago family. I want to welcome you back to the Yellow is a Co program on UNC USA. Fortunately, we have a well intact team here. We have the Community Response Deployment Team TT back with us. And what's fortunate tonight is we have our former CEO of ODPM, Dr. Stephen Ramrup, and also Mr. Suman Singh and our civil engineer here, Kendall Chen. So, guys, I want to welcome you back to the program. It was a very interesting conversation last night. It was something, your team is exactly what I've been looking for years and hoping to get people on board. I see somebody, Kathy, joining us. Let's see if we can fit Kathy in. Welcome, Kathy. Kathy, you hearing us? I'm not sure if Kathy's mic on there, but Mitra and Anwar, you hearing us, right? Kathy will have to fix her mic.
Loud and
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, I'm hearing
Yes.
you.
Um, so I want to welcome you back to the program and just give Dr. Ramrup a quick rundown based on he wasn't here last night on what you guys been doing, so he understand what you guys are about.
Okay, before we pass the mic on to Marissa, this is Anwar. I would like to just introduce the team members that's in front of you now. We have Marissa Budu, as you know, she's the vice president of the Community Response Development Team. She's also the spokesperson who uh, do most of the talking. We also have Bina with us. She is our secretary. We have Mitra, who is our projects and planning person. We have Faiz, our technical officer. We have Ronald, our public relation officer. We have Sandra, who is our financial and project coordinator. And myself, I'm the president of the team, the Community Responsive Development and Deployment Team, TT. So with that being said, introducing the members, I would like to pass it on to Marissa through you, Mr. Chairman. Marissa?
Marissa, go
Yes.
ahead.
Hi. Good night. Good night, everyone. So
Good
I wanna introduce who we are, Mr. Amrup and everybody on the line. I'd like to let you all know that we are Community Response Deployment Team (TT), in other words, the CRD TT team, and it's an action-driven community restoration organization. We are an NPO, and we are dedicated to rebuilding, restoring, and strengthening communities across Trinidad and Tobago. When we founded with a clear purpose, and that was to turn challenges into solutions. And also, it was to respond where communities need support the most. Our workforce and communities right now, we're doing cleanup, environmental restoration, flood prevention support, and full project coordination from start to completion.
Mitra, I think Marissa was frozen there, but Mitra, can you jump in here for a little bit and tell us a little bit of what you've been doing?
Right. So our team, as Marissa was saying, we deal in community related work, not just one community, but many communities. And we are looking to be proactive rather than reactive. So we are looking at mitigation projects, cutting off fire trails to protect homes and livelihoods, livestock, along those lines, and also in time of disaster, disaster response and disaster relief is also part of what we are looking to do. And we have identified flaws in the systems that be right now, whether it be a ministry or corporation. There are setbacks and there is a time factor. And in the business of disaster, time is very, very critical. 5 minutes can cause a whole embankment to cave if they don't have the right resources at the ground. So we are trying to bridge those gaps that we have found in the system as best as we can and as fast as we can also with the resources we have, and we continue to try to expand our resources so we can complete this mission that we are on to get things to a standard. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to make sure that all the bearings are properly greased so the wheel can spin faster in time of disaster or time of need to mitigate with these mitigation projects that we are planning to execute. We should have minimum damage if it is a flooding event is to take place within a community. Our team, we're also looking at getting our team trained in different areas. We have identified in Trinidad, I can't speak for Tobago, but in Trinidad, I do not believe I've been looking to see if the fire service or any other MPO, NGO, private organization has a swift water rescue team. And so far, I've found none. So that is something we are looking to research and have our team fly out, members who are able-bodied, to fly out and do such a swift water rescue training. So we can have that here. We actually are looking to gain possession of a couple small water vessels to respond in times of disaster. Along with a lot of different things, we are looking into equipment, backhoes, trucks. So we are really looking to build a organization that works, that functions, that can coordinate with anybody at any point in time. And that is the goal of the organization.
How are you managing to acquire resources at this point with funding and stuff like that?
So Marissa is the best person to speak on that for you.
Yeah,
Right,
she
I
kind
see
of
she's
skipped
back.
out. Are you back there, Marissa? Now, are you hearing us, Marissa? She seems to be frozen. I don't know. So she might have some internet problems.
Yeah. So so we were all doing these projects before the MPO started. Now that we have come together as a team, we are all pooling what resources we have, what contacts we have to come together to get some funding. So we are now looking to get into funding because what we do most times is we dip out of pocket. So we are now looking to acquire some funding, and we have private persons we reach out to for stuff like equipment. We have volunteers that we reach out to for manpower. But when it comes to the funding, we're actually trying to work on that and see how best we can acquire some funding so we don't have to dip in our pockets all of the time.
Mitra, you did mention last night that you were also with the local government ministry, right?
Yes.
Remind us what position you have there with local government.
Right. So I am there for a period of 6 months, and while I'm there, I'm dealing with all the volunteers throughout all 14 corporations and writing protocols. And we have something called CERT Games coming up. So I am doing all the
So
planning and
volunteers for what?
logistics for
Volunteers
that.
to do what?
Right. So through the ministry, we have something called Community Emergency Response Team. It was started in Los Angeles, I believe. And that came to the country 15 years ago under Mr. Jerry David, the Senior Disaster Coordinator. And I believe there was somebody before him. And we train communities to be responsive. So we give them skills such as medical operations 1 and 2, disaster psychology, sandbag wall construction, chainsaw use and safety, light search and rescue, fire suppression. So we give them a 5-day program that is all well-rounded and catered to handle themselves for 72 hours in case of any natural disaster within their communities. So the program was designed for persons, then it moves to your family and your neighbors, and then extended to the community. So that is a program that we have here in Trinidad.
So you said that started 15 years ago?
Yeah.
So that could fall under Dr. Rambupa as ODPM CEO then, Doc? Dr. Ramos?
Yes. So say that again. Repeat that. Sorry.
He said that the program started under about 15 years ago. So I was just wondering if you were CEO at the ODPM at the time when this.
Well, in 2010, right? It was started with the local government, and they had hired a company to begin the training. In 2011, when I started, we had started to give Jerry the kits, right? So that we had given them all the kits for when they do the training, so they'll have the training kits. So it really evolved a lot when I was there between 2011 to 2015, so to speak, when PNM cut off all the funding. But during that time, most of the, well, we would say gifts, but when you did the courses, you would, I don't know if these guys remember that they used to give us they used to give you all the little bag with all the little things that you needed with the cert training, right? We had started that, but there was a company that local government had hired to do the training. So it actually started as he said, early, when Jerry was there about 15 years ago. Well, I don't think Jerry was there 15. I know David Williams was after NEMA. They had started it a bit, but it really evolved a lot when in 2010 it started, and then local government pushed it a lot between 2010 and 2015, so to speak. I'm not sure what happened in the last.
So this was a UNC government project then, most of it.
Well, as I said, it existed. They had started the training under the PNM. And then when UNC won the elections in 2010, right, local government, I think Chandrish was there as local government minister initially. Mm-hmm. So he had started because I think he had hired David Williams, who used to be NEMA CEO, right, before. He was head of NEMA. And I think he had hired David Williams to work as the disaster coordinator.
This David Williams, Mr. No Biggie?
Yeah. When I left under the PNM, he took over as the CEO, and then he had to resign because of something he was saying. But no, he's correct. As I said, it did start initially a long while before UNC started, under the UNC government with Pandey and them. It started. And then after that, it kind of fell a bit. But in 2010, the local government ministry actually hired a training team. And then in 2011 to 15, we had helped them to make it like a national coordinated system. And we gave out the bags that after they graduated, right? We gave out the bags. So we sort of, as ODPM is supposed to do, rather than reinvent the wheel, as I think who it was, just Mitra was saying, that you strengthen the programs, right? You support the programs, you facilitate it, and you make sure that it stays there long after we are gone. Because the trick in all of this is that when we get old, like 85 years old, and we are living in a community, we want to make sure that when the flood comes or the earthquake comes, that we have CERT teams around, right, that will take care of us. And as you all know, I mean, most of the CERT people will know for sure that there is a 72-hour rule in disaster risk management. And that 72-hour rule means that there are certain types of emergencies where a community will have to survive for 3 days. And CERT teams form a very, very important role in that 72 hours, long before the military comes, long before help comes. In a massive earthquake, for example, people will be shut off at least 72 hours minimum. So CERT teams are required to provide that first aid, to get shelters ready, make sure everybody have the kits, the 72-hour kits, right, which are very important, and to test it, So there are a lot of things. I mean, we could talk all night, but I'm very happy that it is getting, very, what we should say, institutionalized. And I'm hoping that the government, whenever they decide to get ODPM up and running, that they can support the community-based teams via the local government ministry, and the CERT teams would have that ongoing training, and we could use the model that has been used in Cuba, which we had implemented in Rio Claro, Mayaro, using these small little radios and the people in the community, retired persons, to coordinate with the CERT teams, so that you develop what we call a culture of resiliency. And the beautiful thing about a culture of resiliency is that when you really don't have anything, when everything just breaks and it's really bad, you have people who will survive based on the coping capabilities. And it's something that the CERT teams have to be very, very conscious of. It's not just training people, to put a sandbag or whatever. It's more than that. And I'm sure they know about it. And this is what makes the difference between an earthquake in Japan, for example, and an earthquake in Haiti. It's not religion, but it's something we call spirituality. We measure it in fragility. It's what we saw in communities, local communities, for example, in New Zealand, when the earthquake struck at Christchurch. We see Japan, where if there is a shake, you have the little children will come out of the schools, they will have the little bags, they will line up. And I saw this myself because I visited Japan. And I mean, I tell you, these people, they evacuate these schools in less than a few minutes. And one of the things that the CERT teams will eventually, I'm sure they know, will have to do is they'll have to do these drills, right? To drill their communities, to make sure that what happens in Japan is an example. I wish we could raise some funds and send some of the CERT team people to Japan, because I want them to see more than the bags, more than the kits. I want them to see something that is bordering on spiritual, not religion, spiritual, where the people develop a culture. For example, guys, if Ken, you could support me here. If you go to Bamboo and you go to the areas around the Caroni River, where flooding is regular, right? Flooding is something that happens. These people have adapted. Some of them build.
One second, Dr. Alvin, I'm going to have to bring you back in later because the thing can only hold a certain amount of people. So I'm going to bring you back in conversation later, right?
Yeah.
Quite right, Dr. Ramrup. They have adopted to a certain extent, right? For example, they would have blocks and stuff to put their furniture on top, elevated, right? And so yeah, people will adopt, but the bottom line is sometimes they give up hope when the government is trying to implement solutions that are not viable.
This is the deeper thing that we have to now teach the CERT teams to teach some of the communities. And so it's not that you're teaching them how to be resilient, you're teaching them to strengthen their resiliency systems. Right? If you're living in Woodland, for example, and you see the river coming up, listen, the people around that river could tell you when it's going to flood. They don't have to ask the fire services or ODPM or have no big fancy meters or whatever. These people who living in that area for years and years and generations, they would tell you when that river is going to flood. So these are the kind of things. Yeah, sorry.
But Dr. Ramrup, when you're driving to Port of Spain,
just kind of refresh your entry because I'm not able to add you. Guys, if you're hearing me, try to refresh somehow your device. Try the connection again. All right, go ahead, gentlemen.
So, Dr. Ramrup, I know some people, when they just look at the cloud over Port of Spain and the environs there, they would say, okay, time to leave Port of Spain. Now Port of Spain is going to flood. So, yeah.
Suman, again, Marissa, I'm sure you went to I remember going to Miami, right? For example, downtown, and it rains so heavily sometimes that it floods, and sometimes you get stranded. I remember going to a Walmart, and the rain started to fall so heavily that I had to get an Uber, and it took me a long while to get the Uber. I had to call a friend to pick me up because they were diverting against the heavy floods, around the warehouses and things in that lower area. But what I'm trying to say is that it was a kind of normal thing in the sense that they got so accustomed to it that it will come up, it will drain off, and then they back up. They don't make news. It's not no big thing, and then they go about their business. So there is a certain amount of that little, I wouldn't say tolerance, but it's a certain amount of resiliency that exists within communities that are going to be prone to flooding. The answer to the thing that Gary was asking and Marissa and them, they're saying is that, first of all, I think it's something that I would love to support because it's something that is necessary. The second thing that I'm saying is that a lot of the kits that we used to give, I'm sure that this government will enable those type of activities again. Thirdly, I think that a lot of training is required to go into communities and begin to do these exercises in the community centers, in the little churches, the schools, whatever. There are certain things that I think the community emergency response teams would have to get the support from government at least, but there are certain things that you don't have to buy. For example, I'll give you an example. There was a severe landslide and flooding that occurred right in the eastern part of the country just before I left in ODPM, right? And it had cut off a lot of areas like in Sanssouci, up in the Toko area, where we had to use fishermen to bring and carry goods, down to Matalot, because that whole area was cut off, right? And when we were trying to get an excavator, and the 1st Engineer Battalion was trying to get an excavator across a bridge, right? And of course, they couldn't do it. And when we flew across on the helicopter, when we did the recce with ODPM, we were seeing a lot of excavators parked up on the other side of the bridge. So when I went to FEMA, I remember going to FEMA in 2012 when we were setting up the National Operations Center. And the FEMA director took me on a little tour of the FEMA Command Center. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the US. And he showed me the connection between FEMA and the National Operations Center of Homeland Security. I was given that tour on behalf of the United States Military Liaison Officer and US Southcom and the US State Department. They took me from Trinidad and they flew me into Washington, right? Delaware, actually. I spent the night in Delaware, and then we drove down into Washington, and then we went to see exactly how the NOC and the NEOC, which is the National Emergency Operations Center, operated, which is FEMA NEOC, and NOC is the National Operations Center at Homeland Security. I was given clearance, military clearance, to go and look at the actual operations. And these are some of the things that when we looked at what he was saying, and here is what the Community Emergency Response Team, this is the lesson that I learned. For example, you don't have to buy excavators and big trucks. What you have to do is you have to go and find who has them, for example, in the areas where are the high-risk areas. And then you have to develop, with the help of the local government, these things called memoranda of understanding or memoranda of agreements, right? One of the things that you'll have to look for example, in the worst case scenario, is large areas of land to bury people, which we saw in COVID. You have to look at places where you'll have ice, right? People have to be able to make ice. So you'll have to have certain areas where generators are going to have to be there to keep ice supply high, because I can tell you, when you have a big earthquake, one of the biggest problems is food, and you can't store meats and anything because you have no electricity, you have no ice, you can't store it, and you have to have smoked food, smoked herring and salt fish. So it happens in developed countries like New York, where they had to ship ice, when New York had a blackout for a couple of days when they had the sun flares, right? So the MOUs and MOAs, right, has to be done with people like health centers and hardwares and groceries and pharmacies. So you don't have to stock aspirin, you don't have to stock diabetes medications and insulin. What you have to do is you have to develop that MOU and MOA with pharmacies in the area, such that when a disaster occurs and you're shut off from the fire services, the military and the police for 72 hours, these MOUs and MOAs will come into action, and the people that the CERT teams will go down into the villages and find out the people who have no medicine, which was washed away, and the people who need the bandages and whatever. They can go to these pharmacies, and these pharmacies will be able to supply the goods. So it's basically tapping on what exists already by having a relationship which is legal, so that if, for example, when something happens and I go to a hardware and I take $10,000 in goods, right, to support my community, within that 72 hours, they have the bills and the government will pay that, because that's the MOU that the government has to sign, because it's a state responsibility. It could be a private sector responsibility as well. And this is why the CERT teams, when they're starting to have their meetings of all the stakeholders, they can bring the business chambers together, they can bring the Red Cross, they can bring the Rotary Club, they can bring all the key areas, and they can form in the community centers that little group that actually brings the stakeholders together, find out who has the resources, support the hardwares and the groceries that do not have a generator and whatever, start buying generators. That is what you need support from the government and from funding agencies like the Japanese and the European Union and all of these things. They can provide those under the climate change, under the small island development states fund. There are a lot of funding, right, that is available via the disaster network through the ODPM and through bilateral and multilateral agencies that can support a lot of these areas, so that in high-risk areas, you can begin to look at those places that, for example, the ice factories and the hardwares and the groceries and the big pharmacies, so that you can convince them to have generators. So something could happen, then all the military has to do with the helicopters and the army is to fly diesel down there, right, to make those generators run, etc., etc., etc. See, so these are the kind of things that will take our country from being, primitive in terms of disaster readiness to being first world. And these are the things that, we have to get back into the ODPM, and we have to begin to share and work with our community teams, because like a human body, the basis of the human body is the cell, that single cell that exists way from the brain, way from the liver, way from the kidney, and that cell is representing the entire human being. The cell is like the individual in a community. And who is responsible and who works with that individual? It's the community emergency teams. So in a nutshell, that's definitely what I would like to bring to the table.
Thank you, Dr. Ramroop. Gentlemen, anybody from the community response team would like to jump in here? Marissa, or anyone of you guys?
Some great information just passed there, and these are things that we have been saying for a lot of years that needs to be done, and some of these projects was just stifled, and I hope to see them back up and running. I'd like to just share a brief story with you about some of the stuff with our team. All of us would have suffered some disastrous event. In 2018, I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to start doing small renovation projects. So during that year, every paycheck I saw, I bought a piece of tool. And I was really, really into expensive tools, Klein, Milwaukee, DeWalt. I always wanted the best. And in 2018, when the major flood happened, our village in Carney flooded, had over almost 4 feet of water in about 40 minutes because the embankment burst. And I helped everybody, all my neighbors, family, everybody. And it's only when I went home, I realized I wasn't seeing the tools. And I lost everything. And after when I did my evaluation and I checked what I lost $20,000 in tools. And up to today, I've never recovered from that. And I got no assistance from the government or anybody. And that is what drives this team. Passion meets purpose. That's the best way I can see it. So everybody has the passion, and then we found a way to have purpose and now try to help persons so the same scenarios that we face does not happen to anybody else. Or even if it does happen, we can give them some form of relief and bring them back to some form of normalcy in the shortest time possible. So that is just something I wanted to mention. That is a kind of driving force for our team to recognize, respond, and recover quickly.
Dr. Ramroop always say that we can reduce all flooding, but we can minimize it. And and the mind-boggling thing to see is the negligence that took place within the last 10 years, the refusal to clean, at least to clean the river. And you've seen money and big talk for the last 10 years where we didn't see the work done because you saw the effect of flooding when it came to your community. You saw it firsthand. And I mean, we observe from outside, but you guys experienced that directly. So I was always reaching out and and trying to share ideas and getting people from here to make in the US to make some kind of a contribution. It's just that the current government in place wasn't very receptive. I mean, from even though I reached out to guys like Captain Wint and Mr. David Williams was the first guy, and he went out the door as soon as his little misunderstanding there. But I've always been in touch with the ODPM and sharing ideas with the government, and so hopefully we have a government in place now who is more interested in doing these things, and it's just a matter of time and funding. But I want to also see, besides depending on the government, I want to see what kind of assistance we can source going forward to assist you guys, because I mean, time is of the essence here. I mean, it's a matter of life and death, and every day we see people getting in distress or either shot or in some kind of medical situation, whether naturally or unnaturally. And we want to be able to have our community organized to respond to save lives. And this is why I'm very interested in supporting you guys. Dr. Ramo, you could share some ideas about the
The
ambulance service.
ambulance. Yeah.
Because Marissa was also, I mentioned it last night, and she was also interested in that part about, she was even thinking about acquiring at least one ambulance. Right, Marissa? You could jump in here for a little bit. I'm not hearing Marissa. Can you unmute your mic?
Marissa? Marissa, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
You want to elaborate on the ambulance?
Yes, we would like to. There is an ambulance problem in Trinidad. We had a lot of people. They said when they call the ambulance, it takes too long to get to them. And sometimes the ambulance is not working. They don't answer the calls. And we want to introduce an ambulance service. So we are looking for 2 or 3 ambulances to outfit an ambulance here, and people can call us and we will respond quickly, and we will be that call of hope. So that's what we want to do, because the ambulance system in Trinidad, it's very, very poor. And if we can get any sort of help from Mr. Ramrup, speak to him further about it, we'll really appreciate that.
So Dr. Rambo could always advise on on how it should be outfitted, and what is needed and stuff like that. Maybe you can have some connections, can also help with you guys, Dr. Rambo.
Yeah, it's something that is a very good idea.
Great, I would love that.
We have a lot of volunteer service here in the US, and most of it is function on donation, really, than state or federal funding. So we have a lot of volunteer units that are really operational on basically on donations. So I'm hoping that these guys can proceed in that direction. It's something that I long wanted to see. Go ahead, Marissa.
Well, we will appreciate that so much. Any help we get by getting ambulance, we will be the driving force of it, because we want a better Trinidad and Tobago. We want to provide that service. We want to be the first responders. We want to help with Mr. Dalchan's system. We want to maintain the system, because I think, and I know, I feel it, I saw it yesterday, and I think its prototype as well is the system that is going to work in Trinidad with the flooding issues, because we want to turn challenges into solutions and to respond where communities need and support the most. And our focus is on flood preventions, and environmental restoration, cleaning up the communities, full project coordination from start to completion. So we're very, very excited to be on this platform, so people can hear us, hear our voices, reach out to us, and let's build a team. Let's build a stronger team.
Exactly the kind of people we've been looking for. So Marissa, before you leave tonight, though, I do want you to advertise a contact number where you guys can be reached and you let me know which one. I could also post it on the stream. How you guys can be contacted. Like you do if our main number, you want me to put your number, whichever one.
Yes, you can put my number, and I can give it to you now.
Is that the same number you have on WhatsApp there? Yeah, you
Yeah,
could call it, and I'll post it on the stream anyway.
Okay, I will send it to you on WhatsApp, and you can post it on the screen.
Yeah, I would use that same number. I have it here.
Okay.
You can also call it out.
Okay, so it's 685-2943. That is my number. I'll also give you the president number, Mr. Anwar Mondel. He is 759-6644. And there's Mitra Ramnath. He's 481-9418. There's Katian, which is 7600289. Those are the numbers that you all can reach us on.
Okay, so we could continue the conversation now, guys. Go ahead. Anybody else? Anwar, you want to jump in here for a little bit?
Is Anwar the guy from Bamboo number 3?
Mr. Anwar, the president?
Yes.
He's from Mr. Anwar. Are you on? Well, he's off. He's from Curep.
Oh, who lives in Bamboo number 3?
That is Tyrone. Tyrone Parag. He's not on.
I saw Faiz trying to join a while ago. Could you ask Faiz to come back in?
Faiz? He's trying to come back in. Who is trying to come back in? Faiz?
No, he was trying to join earlier. I'm asking him to try and join again so I can bring him back in.
Okay.
Yeah, so the flooding problem is not just one design. It's a combination of different things. Now, with rainfall intensity and global warming, right, ramping up, we are going to be experiencing more and more intense rainfall. So we have to design viable, solutions that will work. That we look at a 50-year look ahead, right? And there's an old rule in water resource: we store the 25 and we convey the 100. Now I can't speak for the 1,000-year storm. That is a biblical storm. So we have to build and fortify our communities and be able to respond and have the resources, the expertise, and the training, right? So that, as you guys mentioned, that 72 hours very, very critical, because you're more or less like a standalone in your community, serving, helping, rescuing, addressing medical issues. There are patients who have underlying issues, who are not mobile. And Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in the epicenter, or you live in the epicenter of that flooding in Bamboo number 2 there, where you had about 4 feet of water at your home.
It was more than 4 feet. It was 5. It was a little over 5 feet, because it was reaching almost my shoulders.
Wow.
Because we are very, very close to the river. I am 5 houses away from the river.
Oh. So I mean to say, some kind of vessel, a dinghy or something, to move around and rescue people there, right? I remember the guys from who is those guys? The guys who they do the boat sanctuary tours.
Kalpo from the swamp.
Kalpo, they came down with their boat and stuff, and they were rescuing people and handing out supplies and stuff there, right? Those guys do a wonderful job also. I've I've rode with them on several occasions, right? In some of the flood-prone areas, you know. So what you're doing there is excellent, right? And that is part of the resiliency. You're not being proactive. You're not being reactive, but you're taking a proactive approach and preparing the community for when that disaster hit, regardless of the magnitude.
I
Now, sorry, now the issue that occurred in Bamboo number 2 there was a breach of the river bank. And this is
correct.
something that we have to assess carefully. We have to work that entire alignment or that area that's surrounding or bounding your area and ensure that it's well kept, maintained, and it's not prone to erosion or as so what occurred there. It was alleged that someone was stealing the material from the bank, right? And they were
Yes.
mining the material for other purposes to fill their plot of
Yeah.
land or something to that effect, right? So there are many moving parts here that we have to look at, not just within the scope of the work, but outside, right? Because there could be people who could create a man-made disaster.
Correct.
But we have a bunch of designs I've developed. 2 of them implemented successfully in Bamboo number 3. Dr. Ramrup was very instrumental also in helping me launch those designs. And the trash truck that you saw in the video, we have intercepted more than 100 tons of garbage since that trash truck was implemented in 2014. Imagine
Yeah.
100 tons of garbage. And your colleague Mitra Ramnath mentioned a garbage patch. I don't know if Mitra is still on. Mitra, you want to elaborate a little more on that?
Right. So a couple years ago, I think was in 2022, at the Caroni River on the last 5 miles, right behind Vishnu Boys College, just for a landmark. There's a bridge there, and there was a span of garbage, almost 100 feet by 40 feet, which will equal to almost 1 lot of plastic debris, styrofoam, greenery, and we were able to remove 5 tons of it safely. And the garbage was so dense that we were able to walk on it into the river while the river was about 95% capacity. And I championed that cleanup, and I started by myself, picking up 1 bottle at a time and putting it in garbage bags and walking back to the bridge and putting them on the bridge. And then I got some volunteers to come out, and we all tried, and it was manual labor. And at that time we put out the call to the drainage division. Can you all help us? Can you all get some equipment? Because we don't want this debris when the river drops to go back into the sea, right? And we got no help, so we just had to work with what we have and just use pure, strong manual labor to get it done. And that striked a project, and we did a cleanup of the Caroni River. We got the community of Caroni to get into the habit of recycling, so we got recycling bins, and we actually sensitized the community in such a way where now the community is more or less resilient. We had projects done to help with the flow of water. We can't stop what's coming in, but we can help with the flow and faster runoff. And now I have put protocols in place within my community. I've built where when we know rain falls for a certain period of time, we have streets that we would park our vehicles in a certain order. Neighbors will call one another until we get on to everybody to get them to evacuate. I have used, if it's needed at the Vishnu Boys College or the Caroni Hindu School, if there's a shelter need to be open, and just continue to learn and evolve. My community, I always use this as a model. I was able to champion and to work and create this where now, as soon as rain starts to fall, we know what happens, when it happens, how long it takes to happen. Just some minor infrastructure works with some of the old style floodgates or sluice gates, as they say. One is still manual, so we have to know when to lock that off and when to open it back. And also there is a defective flap gate on the embankment, and most time that sticks and that is why we get water. But talking to the last administration, I think through the Ministry of Drainage, I think the person still sits there, and she was saying that that gate is in court, and that since 2022, since a matter of fact, since 2018, that gate has been given trouble, and I don't know why they can't fix it for us. But if that gate is fixed,
well, Bertrand, let me just stick up in here for 1 second.
yeah.
I did a investigation of those flap gates,
Mhm.
right? Now the big gates, right, that outfalls into the Caroni River,
Yeah.
those gates are so massive they become warps. They're susceptible to warping, and also rusting. It's a metal, right?
Mhm.
I have documented metal flap gates along Manzanilla, right? Right, bounding the outfalling into the ocean,
Mhm.
newly installed, and is starting to rust. So the gates, there are limitations with these flap gates. As far as the sluice gate, right? If it's manual, then someone has to run down there in the middle of a storm or prior to a storm, right? And manually crank that gate. I took all of this into consideration and I developed a design to replace all of this. And this is what I implemented in Bamboo number 3. It works on differential pressure head, right? Once the river drops, or there's a difference of 1 inch in elevation, water starts to flow in one direction, or it cuts off, or it locks off, right? And this is the design. It's very viable. It's almost zero maintenance. It's a self-scoring chamber also, so it addresses the silt and stuff there. This is the design. It's very viable. It's almost zero maintenance. It's a self. Yeah. So you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what we're looking to implement, because during the middle of a rainstorm, right? If you have the operator and he's sick or he has an emergency and cannot operate that gate or control those flows, then the entire place could become inundated, right? So we have to think outside of the box, because the loadings and the intensity that we are going to be facing in the next few years is only going to increase, and we are going to be challenged and pushed to a point where either we make or break. So we have to think very carefully, collect the data. For example, let me just ask you a simple question. In 2018, could someone identify or tell me what flood event occurred there? Was it a 50-year storm, a 25-year storm, a 100-year storm, or a 1,000-year storm in that catchment that inundated and devastated what's this place called? Madras and St. Helena and these places,
St.
where there was
Helena.
about 10 feet of water in some places. So we need data to identify these type of flood events, so we know what are the limitations for the catchment or for certain areas, right? And then we can design and say, hey, you know what? We are designing here to address or to convey a 100-year storm, but we'll store the 25-year storm. We'll provide and excavate the ponds, the retention and detention for storage, right? For a 25-year. But if we get hit with a 100-year storm, we have the cross sections in our conveyance system to convey it, But this comes with good data, right? And a good design also. We just can't go out there and just design something for the sake of it, or do trial and error engineering, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with a classic project by the Lighthouse in Port of Spain there. They tried to implement a pump system, and then they put a 2D trash rack. And the garbage coming out of Port of Spain would clog or create a plug against that trash rack. And when you look at the outfall, low tide, it is almost, you see the silt, right? And at the same time, South Keys is submerged. So again, we have to come up and utilize designs that have been proven, tested, that are climate resilient, and returns value for money. And also user friendly. If it's self-cleaning, self-scouring, because we all know maintenance is a big problem in Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, so this is the road that we want to actually head down. Because when we are faced with a disaster, we do not want to be in a reactive position.
Well, I think the 2D grading system they have, I think that will cause continuous garbage constriction.
Certainly, correct. Correct. And this needs
And
to be
then,
replaced.
yeah, so, I don't think it will work, the 2D grading system.
You want to ensure that the cross section is cleared at all time and there's no constriction of garbage,
Yes,
garbage constriction. And this is a classic problem throughout Trinidad and Tobago, right? I have created a developer design. It's an industrial design, protected by the Intellectual Property Office. And it's a 3D grading, which actually moves the garbage to the side of the
yes,
bank, of the river bank, or the drainage system. And it clears the entire cross section. So the cross section at that point is flared to compensate for the garbage, moving to the
yes.
sides basically with the flow.
And that design will work.
Well, so far, in bamboo number 3, it has been proven, tested, and it has withstand the garbage loads there, and they get a lot of garbage from the Grand Bazaar area, from these
From the
food
food
areas.
places.
Now, I'm not saying that the people are dirty or they dump garbage all over. What happened there is that they pile up the garbage, it's not collected in time, and the dogs and the cats and stuff jumps into the bag, start ripping up the bag, shredding these bags, looking for food scraps.
Correct.
And what happened? They scattered all of the beverage containers, the food containers, and so forth. The first drench would wash it straight down to that pump station there, and that is where the garbage, where the 2D grating, right, created a constriction or a plug, and the entire lower part of bamboo there, right, bounding the highway there would flood.
Yeah.
So now we have addressed that with a 3D grating, a 3D trash rack, and it's working fine. Since 2014 till now, we have exceeded more than 100 tons of garbage. We have removed more than 100 tons of garbage there from that point. Just one location alone.
Yes, I had a look at it yesterday.
And I'm very thankful Dr. Ramap was also involved with that project. Dr. Ramap, are you there?
Yes,
Probably
yes,
won't.
I'm here.
Yeah. So we launched that project together in 2013, 2014. And Dr. Ramap was very instrumental also in assisting with that project because he saw the value in the innovative design. Dr. Ramap, you want to say a few words there?
No, I
What
think
we did in 2014?
No, I think you have covered a lot of it. It was based
Yeah.
on the fact that it's a common sense design and it's cost effective. And so far, I haven't heard any sort of negative comments about it. So, thank God we have that as an example, so that we can refer to it when we need to.
Yes, definitely. And I'm going to be when I get back to Trinidad, I'm going to clean it up and service it and stuff. And I'll bring you guys, the ministers, regional corporation, technical persons, Marissa, your entire team, and we will do a little site visit, right? So you guys can see firsthand, and I'll explain to you exactly how it works.
Well, we will be very grateful for that, but I will also like to take it a step further. I will also like to let the people of Bamboo 1, 2, and 3 let you all know, let them know that you will be here with Mr. Ramrup, and get the community center open, and you all can have a meeting with the residents of all 3 bamboos.
Sure, definitely. You can
That
go ahead
would
and set that
be
up.
an excellent thing to happen, and we can even live stream it too.
We could do a live
Yes,
stream here
because
also. Yeah.
we need to have some, it will give a lot of us hope, because while I was down there yesterday, a lot of residents came out and they were practically begging us, saying, please help us. Every rain falls, they scared. We scared that we're gonna get flood like this. I lost my entire home in this flood. My dad got very, very depressed, and he passed away in 2024. It was very, very difficult for my family, and it was hard to see something like this he built and he lost it.
So what
Well,
I can also do, Marissa, is if you are out there, and you happen to be among the people, you just give me a holler and I'll send you a link and you go live and direct with them. But I want to definitely arrange that meeting with Dr. Ramrup and Ken can come out there and meet with you guys.
Yes, definitely.
So sometimes during the day, if you're out there and you're encountering residents who have some complaints, so we can go live with them.
Yes, every Sunday, our group, we are at the moment cleaning the entire of the entrance at Bamboo 2 entrance. We are doing the community center. We are trying to restore Bamboo number 2. We're going to move on to Bamboo number 3, Bamboo number 1. We are trying to do all the communities in Trinidad and Tobago, get people involved, help them bring it togetherness, give back hope. But when that rain comes, it's people are scared. We are actually very, very scared. And I am hoping that I know Mr. Dalton's system. After looking at it yesterday, I studied it. I looked at it last night again. I know this can be the solution.
And that's based on the videos I sent you and some of the pictures and so forth. But look, yes, at the end of the day, it has stood there. It's very resilient. It's almost like a standalone system, right? That doesn't require a lot of intention human intervention to operate valves and use wrenches and stuff, or to interact with it, right? It works with a differential head, right? And 24/7, this thing is operating. What we need is to have the buy-in. We need the government also to buy into this, right? And I think once we start to hold those discussions, right, and we start to do site visits, right, they will see exactly the value. And this design, it could be scaled, right? I could scale this and we could put this in Woodland and address, some flooding problems there, you know. So yeah, these designs are scalable and they're climate resilient and they have been proven tested.
Good. Well, when you get here, I will get the people involved. I'll get the residents. I'll get the people involved, and we'll host a big meeting.
Definitely. I look forward to that, and I'll bring my colleagues. I'll invite if Dr. Ramrup is in the country. I'll have him come along also, and we will meet with the residents and we'll have that conversation and discussion, and we'll
Good.
reassure them, right? I know, flooding is a national problem, and we spoke about it a couple days ago on this live here, right? Where we're trying to look at reducing our food import bill. 95 or 94% of our food is imported, right? And we have to try to reduce
Again,
that.
the thing about it here is we are importing things that can be grown in Trinidad, and that is
Correct.
the first step that you have to deal with. The other things you can attempt to work with, but I am concerned very much in seeing the fact that things that can naturally grow in Trinidad is not getting the support, and we should work with getting that up and running. I mean, things like tomatoes and things that grow in Trinidad. I mean, we should
Correct.
make sure that that is not imported.
Right. But Gary, we also have to fix the underlying problem here, right? Which is the flooding. We can't have people
Well, yeah,
planting
definitely.
tomatoes and it getting washed away. Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong. There's farmers in Bamboo number 2 down there at the end of Bamboo number 2 that are suffering that are impacted with the flooding, right?
Yes, I am gonna get them in that meeting as well.
Okay, good, super.
I'm gonna
Also,
have
Wonderful.
everyone. I'm gonna have a lot of people come to that meeting that you're gonna have.
All right.
So yeah, so
So
guys,
we
what I'll need you to do is, you get a tripod or something and stabilize the phone. If you're using a laptop, that's wonderful too, so that you get a nice widescreen view, of the crowd there. You organize yourself and I can switch from device to
Yes.
device. But at least if you're using phone, get a phone held, tripod or something like that to kind of stabilize the,
Yes.
you know.
I'll take care of the technical part, and also we will get the people at the meeting, and we'll put them live with you all.
it's good to hear the persons who have been impacted, who have lived through the flooding for generations. Because I've always said there's not just about material loss, but there's a human impact, right? That we need to hear, you know. And that is important because it will motivate us to find solutions.
Yeah.
We can't have the same thing happening again and again and again, and then we going out and giving out relief. Well, I would like to see that relief money contributed towards prevention. I
Correct.
think it is more feasible to work towards the preventative. As long as we in government now, so definitely I expect the Caroni River to be handled in a much efficient way. But you guys, if you see anything that needs to be addressed, let's address it right away. We will get the attention of the ministers so that that we don't get caught in a situation where the situation could have been prevented. This is what I want to see, is that we organize our people to observe and report, and the report gets the communication flows effectively, so we intercept the situation quickly.
Definitely.
So, when you all come to Trinidad, what I can do for you all is I will try to get a small vessel, and we will do a tour of maybe 3 or 4 miles of the Caroni River to show some of the erosion in the embankment. Um, After you all finish in Bamboo, if time permits, I can take you all to Caroni. We could look at some of the floodgates, and I'm hearing a lot of Woodland. We're talking about, I have a colleague in Woodland, Mr. Edward Moody. I don't know if anybody is familiar with him, but he deals heavily with flooding in the Woodland area, and I know Woodland is one of the areas they are also trying to bring themselves up to speed. They are dealing in rainwater harvesting. Um, they're also looking and collecting the empirical data right now for saltwater incursion into the farmlands of Woodland. And also there's a group I am also associated with, the Silt Farmers Support Group, who deal with most of the farmers throughout the country. And one of the places that is mostly affected when we have flooding events is the farmers in Orange Grove also. So once you all get here, we could coordinate depending on your time, and I can set some stuff up for you all.
I will make the time
Let's get them
because
on the live too. Let's get them on the live. Invite them, and we
yeah,
can set up something for tomorrow
I
if
will
you want.
definitely look forward to that tour along the Caroni River to investigate those floodgates that are
Can we get a
non-functional.
drone? Is there a chance of getting a drone involved?
Yeah, I'll
Yes,
work with a
we
drone
could get a
also.
drone involved.
Yeah, we have to get a drone, to access the some of the areas that are not
Yeah,
accessible by boat
you
and
could,
stuff.
even if you could get a drone even now. I mean, let's kind of do get some footage and send it back to us here.
So what I will do, I'll contact my colleagues at Red Cross. They usually come out with their drones and they do my footage. So I will get in
Right.
contact with them, and I'll see if they could come and do the footage for me, and I'll pass it on to you.
All right, yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. And like I said, let's link. We want to link across the country with everybody. So, this channel is available. You guys, just let me know as soon as you get people available. We're going to go live and bring the issues up front.
Our NPO, we will get the residents involved. We'll do a live with you all, and then we will also get the farmers involved. We'll do a live with you all as well. And we will also take care of the drone footage for you all.
So, Marissa, I got your number here. I'm floating around, and I also have been streaming Mitra number also. And Kathy, you want to say a few words?
Kathy, you can hear us? Kathy? Not sure if you could hear us.
I think she dropped out. I don't see her. Yeah, she dropped out. Yeah. So definitely, let's make plans to moving forward.
Get the ball rolling.
Yes.
All right.
We have a
This
design in
is
place. I'll bring you
second
guys.
month
We'll
of the
do a
year.
demo.
We have about 4 months really. Sometimes the rain that starts so hard in May before June. So let's see how best we can organize and bring that information, and between the volunteer and the government help, we get everybody together, so best we can deal with this issue, and have our people watch for those who are dumping garbage, into the river and stuff like that, illegal dumping. Just keep your eyes out for these kind of things. So
Yeah.
we put our people, on patrol, to help us monitor the situation, give you a feedback, so we can address it and we don't build up and create problems while people are trying to clean the waterways. You got people dumping, and some people are still ignorant of the fact, and you do have to stay on top of it, until the government gets its funding sorted out, and we can put proper things in place, to manage the waste and all these different things. And we want these legal dumping grounds for garbage to be identified. You could come online, and we could say, well, this is the place that you should do if you have garbage. And we want to provide enough information and education for the people. And again, the channel is available to do all these things for you guys. All
Totally.
right, guys. Anything else you want to add at this point? Dr. Amber, we were talking about outfitting the Cuba Hospital to where we can bring foreign doctors to operate there, so we can save on the cost factor for our people. So maybe you can just give us a quick run through on that.
Yeah. What it is that the hospital, as I said, is just a concept which I think the government should consider.
Whichever I think is the best place to use, right?
Yeah,
As far as
because
the
we
most
have
modernized.
the government owns the assets, so to speak, and they could contract it out. And I think it's something that they should try, because anything new in the RHA was just burden a system that is already overburdened. Right now, they have lack of resources. They have funding. I mean, in the last few years, they lost a lot of money that went all over the place. We had COVID, and they didn't really manage COVID properly. So in a sense, we have quite a lot of problems in the current health sector. So I say, instead of going to add another dimension to that problem, because I mean, right now there's a big problem with staffing of that hospital, in which there's some issues that are going on where people are, the staff will be moved from some of the other hospitals. So in order to open it, certain services from some of the other hospitals will come there, and it can operate. However, I do feel that if you can't get the current, I don't know if Suman join us back, but if you can't get the current operations running properly, if you add another system to it, it can cause more problems in the long run. So my suggestion would be to think out of the box, right? Cost the healthcare right now, do a costing, and once you can get a reasonable cost we could start phasing in the type of services that you want. Bring the foreign doctors across, get the private healthcare company to manage that facility like a private center, although it's government, and give them a contract to do it properly, and use that as an example or a model by which the other RHAs can apply a business process to run the RHAs. Biggest problem, I think, in all the RHAs is that it is run like a public service organization, where I feel that the healthcare should be run like a business. And although the bottom line is not money, it's quality of care. I think that if you run it properly and your cost, everything has a cost. Even if you have a bottom line of quality, there is a cost. There is a cost to do everything in this world, everything. And therefore, if you can cost the healthcare sector and cost the average cost that it takes for a patient to spend 1 day in a hospital, in any one of the departments, ICU, any one of the lines of service, obs and gynae, pediatrics, surgery, ENT, whatever. Each one of these lines of service, they should cost it, and therefore come up with a cost that they are currently spending to run the hospital, and then contract the services with clear deliverables. And I feel that, in my opinion, we could get that hospital running and develop a first world type care, because that will also spin off and allow the RHAs to come in line, so to speak, so that we could use that as a model. I mean, those are my thoughts. That is probably my recommendations.
I think it's a win-win situation because number one, when you have to go overseas, you have to find a place to stay. You have to arrange flight. You're being separated from the family. You're losing that support. You have to find money to support yourself out there. So I think with the extra number of various surgeries that we needed in the country, it will be more feasible to bring these foreign doctors into the country where you're within your country. You have all the necessary uh, support from your family and finance and it'll be less costly. So Cuba being the most modernized hospital we have in the country, I think it is the ultimate place to organize something like that.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
So Captain Singh, you have anything you want to add to us tonight?
Yes. Pertaining to the 2018 flood, I was there when that happened. And I would like to say that since 2018 to now, there has been nothing done, absolutely no drainage work has been done. So this rainy season will start that's roughly around May, and I still haven't seen anything done. So it being a flat area based on the Caroni South Bank Road, which is El Carmen area into St. Helena, into Madras Road, and then going into Warren, Kelly, uh, towards the swamp. That area, a lot of people have encroached on the water courses, making it difficult to uh, to send large excavators or even mini excavators. No one's following the rules there with the setbacks, making it quite difficult. So what you have is the Tulampuna Corporation would come and degrass the areas, um, and allowing the water to flow. But because there's a high volume of effluent from septic tanks, you have that grass growing really fast. So they could within 7 days it's already bushy and constricted with roots, and that's adding to it with the rubbish. Now I think I heard that the government was planning on implementing a fee for bottles to the manufacturers. So they would be some kind of fee so that people would collect them and recycle them for that money. So I think uh, other than the educational part where we say don't litter and all of that, it's not working that well. Trinidadians understand punitive measures, and I think it's about time some fee is given to the companies, the beverage companies that have all these beverages out there and on accountability for their waste. That's one thing. The second thing is the natural water courses as they're being impacted and narrowed. Some areas have gone down to 36 inches to 40 inches. And I shared this with Ken early on. Nothing has changed since 2018. So I don't expect that the flooding won't happen. The banks of the Caroni, if the volume is more coming from the hills and the northern side, a levee has to be done. And it can't be 3 feet or 4 feet. It has to be at least 20 feet on both sides to hold the volume and calculations and stuff like that, which should happen. Or dredging happen like the Savannah River with the U.S. Corps of Engineers. I would also like to see large lakes being built with the tributaries holding water for at least 30 days. Again, this has to be looked at systematically with calculations to figure out where's the most natural areas to put these things in wetlands.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is that if we use a drone, right, and fly over the Caroni River, we could pretty much figure out where we can locate some of these large lakes overflow, so
Yes.
underwater storage areas. And I'm not talking of like, I mean, a 20 feet thing. I'm talking about something more massive, like how we have it in your area up there in Georgia. And maybe you could give us some details and bring like some footage or something, and we could show it on here on the stream the next time you get a chance to. And between that, we could kind of show what we're thinking about,
Yeah.
as the water overflowing. So go ahead.
Yes. So when the flood happened, there was 36 inches of water inside my building. And as for my medical laboratory that I'm building, that area is near the junction of St. Helena. So that area is fixed. I mitigated all the levels there because I found well, I knew where the floodplain was going to be. So the 2018, I take that as a 100-year flooding. Now, no one has come and put any markers in St. Helena. So people are continuing to build with what they have available, the information they have available, because people forget quickly. Now, I've been down in Felicity side towards the cremation ground there, and there were markers, given what the flood markers would be there. So on my place, it's 15 feet. The Carnegie South Bank Road with a satellite drop is about 44 feet, and then it slopes down to the side to about 29 feet to the back. So you had that nice 15 feet area, and there was 36 inches above that. So any building has to displace that amount of water. It's going to go on to the properties next, left and right, and to the back. So with construction happening and with development happening with more and more houses there, I expect nothing has done so far. So I expect there will be flooding this year if the right conditions happen. And in 2018, I remember being there. There was no rain. There was some rain, but the rain had tapered off, and the water started to rise quickly during the day. And then by nighttime, it had already been above where anyone had ever expected it to be before. That in my memory, I could say. But so any building for medical facilities in St. Helena will be above that plane in what I'm projecting. Also, the entire neighborhood comes on my place for parking. So everyone is trapped in their homes, and there's no place to actually coordinate any kind of relief. So if you go get them out with boats, you must have a dry area where you could have a first aid tent and all of that to treat the people before you move them out. Now, in 2018, I had to catch a flight while this flood was going on. So Dr. Ramroop had mentioned the 72 hours. So the water wasn't going it wasn't going down. So I called my cousin, and he came with a boat and got me. And to get to Piarco Airport, we went through Mondo Nuevo. From some road we took from Chaguanas. So there is a way to move around all the flooding that was happening on the highway the Solomon Hotel highway going into Port of Spain, because all the water is moving from the east and going to the west. So we were able to bypass that area and then go through some road, and we got on the highway, on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, and we ended up at the airport. So that was catching the flight. I had a flight to Vietnam around that time. So I'm saying that with all due respect and all the plan on helping while a flood is going on and a disaster is happening, I think we need to reach out also in this forum and have technocrats like Ken and maybe look for some interventions with the U.S. Corps of Engineers to help coordinate some kind of plan, because it's not going to be one thing. It's going to be a multifaceted approach to flooding, because what's happening in St. Helena, Caroni area there, El Carmen, is different from what's going to happen down in the Bamboo area, because all the water is moving from my area and going down to their area. And it's going to be, I think the lady said it was about 5 feet at her home. So that is definitely true, because I did leave markers on the walls of where the watermark was was imprinted after the flood happened. So that was my guide. But I was really disappointed that no one from 2018 in the government came and did any mitigation work, or even any minister of whoever is in charge of the rivers and all of that, works and development and all that. No one came. So hopefully we have this new UNC government, and I know they're working on a lot of things, but this should be something that should be their focus also.
The river definitely has to be dealt with because that is where the pressure the water is coming into the community. I mean,
Yes.
the local drainage, I mean, is something that has to be dealt. But if you have this large summer water just kind of coming into a gush, you can't
Yeah.
control that. So that has to start be controlled from upstream.
Yeah.
Like I've been suggesting, we have to start clearing those rivers, expand the holding capacity, slow down. Some kind of water gate has to be built to kind of help slow things down. And this is where can come
So,
in.
so that's a multifaceted approach. Now I hear what Dr. Alvin is mentioning. We Army Corps, right? One of the biggest
But Ken,
challenge.
that would have to come through the China government, the U.S.
No,
embassy,
well,
wasn't that
here's
maybe?
what I have to say. One of the biggest challenge that they would have, or anyone would have, is data. In Trinidad and Tobago, we do have data like what we have in the United States here. So we can identify rainfall, right, in terms of inches per hour or for over a certain duration. And we have IDF curves, intensity, duration, frequency curves that the Army Corps also has developed, right? And this is how we will identify our storms and design for certain flows. The biggest problem that anyone would have here in Trinidad is good, clean data to work with. What we have to do is try to extrapolate, and as Alvin mentioned, he took water levels, right? So we could have that to work with as an extreme, but it is going to be a challenge because we're not working with clean data or with any kind of data, or limited data, if so to speak. But it is multifaceted, and we're also dealing with a tidal water body, right? Our Caroni River is tidally influenced a little
Yes.
past the Caroni Bridge. If you sit sometimes when there's a high tide pushing in, you will see a reverse flow and see the water is flowing upstream, right? So this is something that we have to also address because it will
And
impact or
that's where
occupy.
levy comes in, right? That's where levy comes in.
Yeah, well, I developed something for that, right? But I have to also look at the environmental impact. You don't want to disrupt or create a major impact to the environment there. There's some type of fish and wildlife and flora and fauna, right, that we have to be very mindful of. So there's something I developed, and it would address the high tide. Um, and again, we also have to look at the higher elevations, look at the check dams, right, to try to attenuate that flood wave. Um, but yeah, it is doable, but again, it's going to get worse over time, right? We are
Okay, what I'm asking
now.
you, right? These large pump house, if we organize these large pump house to start to pull the water out,
So the
together with the rest of the infrastructure that we're talking about, you still need that pump to kind of help.
Right. So yeah, that will be part of the design also because we have to draw down. Once the high tide is pushing in or is intercepted, there's nothing else to actually move that water except a lift pump. So we have to be very strategic in placing them throughout our water courses, and again address the high tide because that excess water would occupy a lot of storage in our conveyance system. So again, it's a lot of work, and the government has to make that commitment to want to solve this problem. Because again, it's affecting our agricultural sector, right? In
Yeah, and it's
addition to
affecting it.
this,
So what I'm saying, as long as you put a solution together on how we go forward and make that recommendation, I think we have something to bat with.
yes, definitely, definitely, yeah. So but yeah, it's definitely doable. We have to assess and evaluate each drainage area or each catchment carefully, and it also requires a certain level of education and enforcement with the dumping of garbage and stuff. Because right now, as I mentioned, from 2014 to present, we have intercepted, or my design have intercepted more than 100 tons of garbage. And those are very conservative numbers.
Yeah, yeah, Ken. So I was saying if I'm gonna build anything, I want to make sure I'm above that flood zone level.
So yeah, so here's what you need to be above the 100-year storm.
Yes.
And that is what we design for here in any community or development. That home, they have identified with FEMA maps and stuff, the 100-year flood, right? And they build or they offset, there's a buffer zone, and they build above or outside of the 100-year storm or flood level, so to speak. And that is very,
Yes.
very important.
Yes, definitely. And if I'm going to put the volume of money I'm going to put into a building there on 4 acres of land, it has to be done that if there is any kind of disaster, this would be a medical facility standing there to be used. And also the entire surrounding areas can come to this one point and be a rallying point, because we don't have that. The government they did Eco Park, which is a great park, but it's below the floodplain. So if you had to stage any kind of emergency triage there, it's not going to be able to be done, especially with flooding in that area.
And yes, I hear what you're saying, but keep in mind with climate change and global warming, 10, 20 years ago, we never heard about a 1,000-year storm, right? And that is not represented in our IDF curve, our intensity, duration, frequency curves. We only go up to 100. With climate change now, we are starting to talk about 500-year storms and a 1,000-year flood event. So what I will do, right, we will build that structure above the 100-year storm, right? But along each one of the ground floor entrances, we will build a floodgate, right? To secure, in the event that we were to go over that, everything within that building will be contained and secured. So it's fortified, and it could probably withstand a 500-year without sustaining damages for the material and stuff inside here. Because I know you're going to have a lot of expensive equipment, and that's going to cost a lot of money. So you want to safeguard that.
Oh yes, definitely. So that is why I was so concerned about the flooding since 2018 and what the government was doing. And I know nothing is being done. So, leaving my markers in place, there's no information, there's no data telling me, what the floodplain is or any markers or anything like you would have here in Florida. In Florida, you'd see a lot of that. And like I said, I was down in Philly City and I saw that down by the cremation ground.
Right on the curb there. There's a little a benchmark with the mean sea level.
Yes.
Where the sluice gate was right there.
Yeah. So I was hoping that something that would have happened since 2018. But again, now that the UNC is in government, and we have great people like Dr. Stephen Ramroop with all the experience, and hopefully a little influence, we can get some of this on its way, so we can have some development. Because there's, we are rock bottom right now in Trinidad and Tobago, and for an investor to come there to put in any kind of money, it has to be a viable thing. You're not going to put the money in there if you're not going to be able to take it out and make a profit. It all comes down to that. So, it's sitting right now and waiting to see what's happening on the ground.
There's a lot of work to be done, not just flooding, crime, right? A lot of neglected infrastructure and so forth over the last 10 years. And it's a work in progress. And I'm happy, I'm very optimistic for the energy sector. We still have to continue to battle this crime, right? I know that the radar, I want to believe that radar is still in place in Tobago. They have been intercepting a lot of drugs, cannabis and stuff. But, I'm very optimistic for Trinidad and Tobago, but we have to work towards that. It doesn't just come by the wave of a magic wand. We have to address the issues, the problems, identify them, and implement viable solutions that are going to work. So I think we covered it, dear Gary. Dr. Singh, anybody wants to say anything?
No.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good here. Gary?
Gary, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I was giving you guys a chance to.
Yeah, so I think we cover all the bases.
Right.
And we're going to be having some more conversations down the road with this new group. We're dealing with some, problems that are matter of national security, right? You know, food security also, and a bunch of other things. But
Yeah,
again, climate change is here to stay,
it affects
and it's going
across
to
the
impact
board. So
us.
it affects across the board. So we definitely have to address it. And when you guys get down to Trinidad, maybe you go down to where Alvin is at too and take a look at the situation there. Alvin, you somewhere close to the river too, right?
Yeah, the river could be, let me tell you about the Caroni River, in fact, could be about 1,000 feet away from where my place is.
Right.
North.
You see?
I'm on the
Right.
south
So
side.
we could calculate some data there on that area too,
Mm.
and look at the situation there. But I think if we get a good drone footage, could give a good gauge of where we need to work with and how how to proceed. Taking a boat upstream is okay, but I think the drone footage will do us a better
Definitely, definitely.
justice. All
And
right.
on the Gary, on the north side of me, there used to be an orange estate. It's about 100 acres. That's still under agriculture, but it's empty. There's not much grass there.
So
So,
that means that we got room to play there with expansion of retention, right?
well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing there. So what happens when the Caroni River spills? That's the first place it go into, and then after
Right.
that,
So
then
that's
it
a
comes across the South
perfect
Bank Road.
location, yeah, to create an overflow. That's one area.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. That's the way I'm thinking along the line. So as you identify that, we want to mark that point. And then, well, Alvin, when you see the footage, you could tell us better, more because you're more familiar with the area there together with the
Yeah,
other
this
people.
this goes all the way up into Sentinel, the agricultural station, and this river eventually will go to the Arena Dam, and then there's tributaries coming off the Northern Range that would feed into another part of it. But the source of this, where they release the water, is in the you pass through by the Brazil High School. There's a road there, and there's a single lane bridge that you go up to the Arena Dam, and you'll see the water being released, and then it's being catched by at the back of the airport. There you'll see where the Wassa place is. That's where they catch they treat the water there, and then the wear is in Kelly.
So,
So there's
there's a water treatment plant somewhere there. You saying?
yes, yes.
So then we could connect the overflow into that water treatment plant at some point if we organize the infrastructure in the right way to meet that connection, right?
That would be something that the technocrats would have to look at, and the engineering
Yeah.
guys.
Well,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
Yeah,
be
we
yeah.
able to
could.
Well,
do.
when we see the footage, then we will know where things are located
Yeah.
and how we can proceed.
How we could tailor that design to entice Wasa to buy into it. We could use it as they could use it as settlement ponds. So you route this spillover water, excess water into these ponds, allow it to settle, and Wasa could now use that, right? So once it has settled and a lot of the turbidity is out of the water, now they could use that and treat it for drinking water.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you would put some kind of how to say infrastructure there in the holding capacity to start the treatment where you start to filter that water when it starts to flow into water. But I mean, you can make that connection. It's not of a big.
Yeah,
Just a matter of having the access way,
yeah.
to get
Gary,
to
one of the
connect
biggest
those.
part of that design will be addressing that tidal water body because the Caroni River is influenced by the high tide, right? And once that tide is is pushing in, nothing your standing elevation, your water is going to continue to rise. So all of a sudden you see the rain stop falling after 24 hours, and you still see the water rising
That's what
because it's not
happened.
flowing out, right?
That
Because
yeah.
the high tide is like a sine curve, a sinusoidal curve, right? It switches, you know, um, and then you are at the mercy of the low tide or falling tide, right? And that's
Yes.
the amount of drainage you're going to get. And then all of a sudden the tide starts to push back in, and nothing is draining. So at the same time, your catchment from your higher elevation is still draining, it's still flowing. So that is where you're going to have a serious problem. And again, the data
There has
is
to be
not there.
there has to be some kind of floodgate that we could design there alongside with the
it has already been designed, right? It's just to implement it.
That's what
And this is going to be a massive.
Expand how it needs to go. You could scale it accordingly.
Yeah.
Size, how big, how small, in different areas. But I said that has to be included with pumps.
Correct. So where that gate is going to go, you're going to have a pump system there, and it's going to be maybe a dual pump for redundancy, right? And these are going to be massive pump houses.
I think that's a worthwhile investment, for us to do that. Put an end to this problem.
Yeah. So depending on the storm that we're going to be designing for, we'll have to have multiple pumps. Because
and then
again,
upstream we have to have several interception of the flow water, where you have overflows coming, just like how Alvin identified a location we could use. There must be other places upstream where we could create another retention area, and turn it into a lake or something, recreation area, but you use it as water storage.
So technically, we will have to develop hydrographs, and that flood wave will have to be attenuated, and that will be the core or the basis of the design that's going to drive the design.
Between drone footage and the topographic drawing, we could kind of start to identify how we move forward with these things, right?
And some rainfall data.
Right, and then that could be assisted by these young people or this organization that we had here, and their team of people.
And we'll have to also talk to OWASA, Water Resource Division, to get some data, because I know that they do collect some data, so we have to scrub that data to see how we're going to use that.
Right. So let's move forward with this. All right, guys. So I think we covered it. We got to spend one night dealing with the crime. I did collect some things, and we'll collect some more footage. I don't know what you guys are up to, doing anything tomorrow. You're busy. Available tomorrow night?
Yeah, we could probably look at tomorrow. That's not a problem.
All right, then. So we are organized for tomorrow.
But we'll plan it. We'll plan it out accordingly.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, then. So thank you, Dr. Ramrup, for joining us.
Dr. Ramrup, have a good night.
Okay, guys.
Alvin, have a good night. Take care.
Okay,
right,
you too. Bye. Okay, bye, Doc.
Bye.
Okay, guys.
We'll talk soon. Okay, bye. Good night, everybody.
We would have the use of the radar for the foreseeable future. I can't give a definitive timeline. And the reason why we need it, we already have a radar center, but our radar systems are somewhat limited. The radar systems provided by the US, they work with drone technology and satellite communications and so on, so that it offers a lot more than what we have. And that is needed at this point in time to achieve certain objectives, because as you would appreciate, the fleet, the Coast Guard's fleet, is not what it should be. So that we need the assistance in terms of detection, which would help us with the limited fleet we have. It would help us to respond in a timely manner and intercept.
We have just 180 body cameras available for service in the TTPS, and they have been distributed throughout the entire Trinidad and Tobago island nation. I have always been an advocate for the wearing of body cameras. Even before my current position, I have utilized body cameras in many ingenious ways. I have actually utilized body cameras to do suspect interviews, and one of the more well-known interviews I did was before Senior Counsel Pamela Elder, and she would have welcomed the use of the body camera during that interview. So it's nothing that to say that I haven't been averse to. What actually you saw was the Commissioner of Police showing the entire TTPS that nothing is wrong with wearing the body cameras. the members of the TTPS are not averse to wearing the body cameras, but at this point in time, due to circumstances beyond our control, we don't have the body cameras to utilize.
Footage of bird murdered in bamboo. A Diego Martin was gunned down in bamboo. This incident happened around 2 a.m. on Sunday, the 22nd of February 2026. According to sources, Curtis Pierre aka Bird, of Gopal Avenue in Diego Martin, had earlier attended the last Jam Carnival Fed at the Hazley Crawford Stadium. Pierre was gunned down in front Napa Pizza, Bamboo No. 3. Sources said that a silver Nissan Wingroad wagon was seen fleeing the scene. Investigations continuing.
Bread on the ground, glass shattered. That's how they entered. That's how the perpetrators, that's how the bandits entered Linda's Bakery on Park Street. I don't know what they get the thief inside of there, because I know that bakery always have security coming and picking up the cash. What was really this, boy? We really... I don't know what time of the morning they break into Linda's Bakery, but they did. They did. The worker, that time they're waiting for the police officers to come. They can't touch anything. It's crazy. Carnival time, so you go have a real bandit something, on the prowl hunting. I mean, hey.
So this is a corporation worker. Instead of picking up the rubbish and putting it in a bag, he is literally dropping it on the ground and pushing it underneath. This is ridiculous. What? No way.